And here we go. Welcome. My name is Deneen Diamond. We're here for the Center of Excellence for Health. We are so excited to offer another Wildlife Wednesday session, and we have a very special guest today. Marlon Prince is here with us, and he's going to speak to us about angling and all the beautiful fish that you see on your screen. I want to say thank you very quickly to Chris Buckingham from the Department of Natural Resources and Fisheries, who is working with me on this initiative, and we've had some beautiful sessions already. And Marlon's session was rescheduled because he actually was sent to the hospital the night before. So he had an excuse. And we are here and we're happy to have Marlon. And I'll just do a really quick introduction. Marlon Prince brings over 30 years of angling experience, including a decade as a professional guide in New Brunswick. Through the years, he has been featured in some of the fishing world's most renowned podcasts, magazines, and videos, as well as being a part of multiple research projects and conservation groups, not conversation. And my favorite part about Marlon is his background and his beautiful feathers and different colors that he has there. And we are just really, really happy to have him. And without further ado, I am going to, and I see that we have the beautiful teacher from ASD South that has signed in with his students. And if you want to put your camera on and give us a wave, we would love that. I'm sure Marlon would love to see the students waving at you. That would be awesome. Here we go. Hello. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
We are just starting right now. Hello. How are you? Oh, you're on mute.
We're doing really well. We had trouble finding the link, but we got it.
Awesome. All right. We're just so happy you're here and we're going to get started right away. I just did a really quick introduction to Marlon, and I'm going to hand it over to him. And I know we're going to have some really engaging questions at the end. So without further ado, Wildlife Wednesday, January 31st. Here we go.
Thank you so much, Deneen. It is awesome to be here and share what I do. So I am a professional fishing guide. I started part-time. I guess we'll get into a little bit more of that later, but I certainly didn't plan this path. I kind of just followed my passion and, followed the opportunities that were in front of me. If you would have told me, or if I would have told someone 5, even 10 years ago that I would be able to do this full time, I probably would have thought it was a joke. I certainly, when I was a kid, I didn't even know professional fishing guides existed. I in the bottom corner, you can see I wanted to play pro sports or be a professional drummer. But here I am doing something I love every day. And again, it's more than just being a fishing guide. It's being a business owner. So we'll get into a bit more about my career path that led me to guiding. And then towards the end of the presentation, we'll get into how everybody can get out and experience the amazing natural resources and fishing opportunities in New Brunswick. So here we go. So my 10-year path as a part-time guide took my business full-time last year. I host guided trips from March until December. And then in the off season, I really focus on the business end of things, networking, promotion, building websites, and accounting. Also, I have to tie flies. I have to repair motors and boats, make sure that I'm all ready for the season, which is fast approaching. So what do I love and hate about guiding? Obviously, I love being out in nature. I love being outdoors, the sunsets, the fires, camping, fishing, sharing that with people. What do I hate? I hate when equipment fails and the downtime that might bring, or the scurrying, I guess, to get things back up and running. You can see I put down in the bottom there, fixing a boat trailer on the side of the road at night in the rain is the worst. So some of the skills involved with what I do, I work with a variety of people, all different kinds of people book fishing trips and come out to share a day in the boat with me. So, I really have to adapt to their wants and needs. There's a customer service aspect to it and customer relationships. My main goal is to ensure that guests have a positive experience every day out on the water. That might mean a different thing for different types of people. As you see, I put in there, a great guide has to have experience. Obviously, you have to know what the fish are doing and how to catch fish for your customers or help them catch fish. You have to be able to adapt to that, and you really truly have to be dedicated to this lifestyle. The relationships in guiding and being a business owner it's a mix of working alone. I start my day, I end my day typically alone out there. Again, even through the off season, working on motors, working on the gear and everything. And then obviously forging relationships on and off the water. So the people that come that are my guests, and then also people in the tourism industry, the accommodations industry. I'm building relationships with hotels, restaurants, all the kind of stuff that goes along with tourism. Looking back, I wish I would have known that this was doable. Like I said, no one had really done what I'm doing 5-10 years ago. I wish I would have known there was all these great programs in New Brunswick to kind of help a young and upcoming business owner along. Career paths, what I would recommend for anyone that's looking into something like this, and it doesn't just have to be guiding, it could be anything that you're passionate about, that maybe like guiding is not the norm. Part-time would be the best way to familiarize yourself with the job and kind of what it requires, to understand the level of commitment it takes. It definitely, for guiding, it definitely does not offer a typical family lifestyle. I'm not, in the winter, I'm home quite a bit. In the summers during the fishing season, I'm certainly not clocking in at 9 and coming home at 5 o'clock every night. It is almost a 24-hour-a-day job in the summertime. So some of the education and training that's brought me here, there's, aside from a guide certificate to become a professional guide in New Brunswick, there is a test you need to take. There's really no educational requirements for what I do. However, an experience in the business field, if you're going to be a guide and run a business on your own, that's obviously really recommended. Understanding of how a successful business is ran is critical. So some of my work history, I was in the gas and oil industry for years out in Alberta, working on oil rigs or building houses as a carpenter. So being outside, long hours, that I was kind of used to that. And then from 2011 until 2022, I was actually a field service manager for security system installers. So that probably helped me on the business end of things, working with others, understanding business structure, and that sort of thing. A day in the life of a fishing guide. As I said, it's a 24-hour-a-day gig, really. A lot of the work I do in the summer, I'm actually camping, because driving home, you'll see that a day in the life of a guide driving home just isn't in the cards sometimes. So I'm camping on the side of the river. So about 4 a.m. I wake up at camp, get myself a coffee and drive to the boat ramp. Get the boat ready and on the water at the dock for the clients. You can see in the picture there's the boat waiting for someone to show up. In the meantime, I might be checking my emails, booking more trips. I greet my guests. We do a safety talk, and then we get to do the fun part, which is go out and actually go fishing out there. Many days I'm actually guiding 2 groups of clients. So we might have a lunch break, or I get a lunch break on my own. Again, I'm checking emails, working on the business end of things. And then I'm preparing for the second group, confirming tomorrow's trip, making sure I'm all ready to go for that. Again, I greet the group. We go out and do the fun stuff, which is spend time on the water. A lot of times I'm not off the water until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Drop off my guests. I clean the boat, prep the gear again, and maybe get a bite to eat and get to sleep. So as you can see, it really is a commitment and a dedication thing in the summer, but I absolutely love that. The rewards of this is meeting new guests. I always say to people, there's no way to really get to know people and really see help them learn, see the struggle and the success like fishing. So teaching people, a lot of times, it takes a bit. I don't, a lot of people think, oh, you must get to fish a lot because you're a fishing guide. I actually don't get to fish much. I have to help people that maybe aren't that experienced in fishing, learn how to fish. So you can see in the picture there, that's a day that, really I'll always remember was a father and son came out and, earlier in the day they had lost a big fish. And, that can be a very defeating feeling when there's three guys out in the middle of the boat and, those big fish like that, you often only get one chance a day at, right? But I told them to stay positive, let's just keep working and make the most of it. We're out here. So as I kind of say is keep grinding, just keep working hard and good things can happen. On that day, we did have that success. As you can see in the picture, we ended up getting a big giant fish. So to me, building that relationship, seeing that success, kind of seeing people through that adversity, that's the best part. Like it just puts a huge smile on their face. It puts a huge smile on my face. Obviously that doesn't happen every day. Sometimes you lose the big fish and that's kind of your only chance. But, driving back to camp or driving back home while the sun sets over the water, that is pretty awesome too, and just knowing that you gave it your all out there that day. So those are the real big rewards for me and what I really really love about what I do. So some career advice I would have, leaning into your passion is really huge to me. I didn't really ever think that this was going to be a full-time job for me. I didn't even think it was possible. I always say one of the greatest quotes I heard from someone in business was to always take the meeting. So if anybody's ever had any sort of opportunity or says, "Hey, let's meet up for a coffee and talk about this," or sends you an email, always answer that back, always see where that door could lead. That's really helped me in the long run. Again, leaning into your passion just means, if you're passionate about, acting or drama, just keep leaning in that direction. Take every opportunity that comes your way and you're going to meet the right people. Maybe you don't end up being an actor, but you end up being in that field. And that's a good start. And who knows where that goes from there. Advice to others looking into this career path. I would say start slow again and gain the experience. I've heard from a lot of people they want to become a guide overnight and they want to do this overnight, and it just doesn't happen that way. It's not for everybody. You really, again, the amount of dedication it takes is really huge. And then as a joke, I put in there it's not really a joke. Have an understanding partner. I have the best wife and the best girlfriend in the world. She understands this is my passion. She supports me, and that's really really huge in this line of work. To spending that time away from home, and she knows what I'm doing is special to me. Anything else I would like to say about my job that makes it interesting? I would say the other thing, it's almost luck, but it's time and place. Maybe waiting for that right time and place. And I really think right now New Brunswick is a special place, and that's part of what's helped me be able to chase this career path and be successful in it. So we'll get into a bit more of that, which we'll talk about some actual fishing. So fishing in New Brunswick, some history. For those of you that may not know, New Brunswick has a rich history in sports fishing, particularly in trout and salmon fishing. Places like the Miramichi River, the St. John River. You can see up in the top left corner, that's Wilson Sporting Camps, who's actually been in business since 1855 on the Miramichi. I got to guide through them and take some clients. They had out salmon fishing last spring, and that's really it's really a special honor to be a part of that tradition. People have been sport fishing forever here, and we were really really famous for this at one time. I don't know if anybody out there, I know you guys are young, but if anybody knows who Marilyn Monroe is or Babe Ruth. Marilyn Monroe was a superstar actress. Babe Ruth was probably one of the best baseball players to ever play the game. And they both used to come to New Brunswick quite often and trout fish or salmon fish at some of these famous lodges, back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. I'm really proud to keep this tradition going. A lot of people, may not view our fisheries You'll hear that from the old timers. It's not what it once was, but to me, it's so much more these days. I don't know if we have any hockey fans out there. Can anyone answer? Do they know who that guy in the on the far right is holding the fish? Any Montreal Canadian fans?
My husband would probably know, but I do not know.
So that's Carey Price. That's a name a lot of people have
Oh,
heard. Yeah, he that picture was taken last spring. I was actually me, and that's Ben Thornton. He's another guide, a younger fella I've kind of taken under my wing, and he runs his own guide service now as well. I was actually kind of right in the background of that picture there. Carey Price came out last spring, did some bass fishing, and caught a muskie, which is a very, very rare fish. So, I like I say, I'm very proud to keep this tradition going, kind of almost in a new way with some of these new fisheries. Again, we're so much more than salmon and trout, and people ask me all the time, how do you fish like almost every day of your life, every day you can? And I always say to them, like, there's so many different ways to fish. There's so many different experiences that fishing offers, and different vibes, I guess I'll say. There's, you can see in the picture there, that's the Princess Margaret Bridge in Fredericton, and we have trophy fish right downtown. I know guys that catch 40-pound striped bass right at the Reversing Falls, right by the mill. Obviously, that's one way to fish the urban fisheries. You can go to the beach and spend a day on the beach. Deneen, you were mentioning how much you love the beach. Some people's idea of fishing is to go out to the beach, throw out a line with some live bait or some cut bait on it, and basically just sit, enjoy the waves, and when the rod bends, you can reel in a fish. Some people like to go out on the ice, right, and spend days out there in an ice hut or even just sitting. That's really not my thing. I do a bit of ice fishing, but I'm kind of like you. I prefer the warm summer months. Hikers, people who enjoy hiking, you can tie that into fishing, where you're, finding these beautiful waterfalls, like in the the bottom left-hand side there. Just exploring, finding these beautiful new spots on foot is another way to fish. Some people, either don't have the funds or they enjoy the workout of kayak fishing and actually launching a kayak and paddling a kayak or a canoe. And then there's guys who really like the competitive side of fishing, where you need the fast motorboat to keep up and get to the spots real quick. The Miramichi Striper Cup is huge. I think we get hundreds and hundreds of entries. People come from at this point all over North America to come fish that tournament. So again, there's just all these different types of waters, types of species that offer different experiences for different people. Again, we're a lot more than just salmon and trout these days. So these are some of the species you can catch in New Brunswick. We have sturgeon, which you can catch. I actually guide for sturgeon as soon as the ice goes out. I'll be fishing sturgeon in mid to late March out of Hampton on the Kennebecasis River. You have striped bass, which are found throughout the province, the Miramichi River, the St. John River. You can catch them off the beach. You can catch them in even some of the lakes in off the St. John River. I'm sure a lot of people, they know about brook trout, that you can catch those fish in lakes. You can catch them in small streams, fly fishing or with spinning gear. Atlantic salmon, which we're probably the most famous for. They are more heavily regulated, I would say, than any other fish in New Brunswick, but it is the traditional fish, and there's a lot of history in our Atlantic salmon fishing. So good places to fish for them would be like the Miramichi River, the Restigouche River, or the Nipisiguit River up north towards Bathurst. We also have lake trout, smallmouth bass, which can be caught almost everywhere in New Brunswick. Almost anywhere there's water in and around the St. John River, you can catch smallmouth bass. We have sunfish, which are cute little, beautiful little fish that are usually in little ponds or backwaters. We have a lot of chain pickerel. We have yellow perch that are kind of like the sunfish. You can catch them again pretty much anywhere that there's calm, stagnant water, lakes, or little pockets and streams. We have brown trout, We have smelt in the rivers and lakes, which a lot of people fish through the ice and enjoy a good meal of smelt. And then I kind of specialize in muskie fishing that's kind of new to New Brunswick, and they are found in the St. John River. And as you can see, they get pretty big. So where to start if you want to get fishing in New Brunswick? I would say the first place is always check your rules and regulations, do your research. There's a ton of videos, there's a ton of resources out there, but if you ever have any questions, I would check the angling book, which can be found, basically you just Google Fish New Brunswick or Fishing New Brunswick rules. There's tackle shops like Minnow Tackle Shop in Fredericton and Dorian's and St. John, both shops. If you go in there and say, I have no idea what I'm doing, I wanted to start fishing, just hang around the fishing section, stripe up a conversation. And as you can tell by me today, fishermen usually like to chat with other fishermen or those that are interested in the sport. We also have a sportsman show in March in Moncton, and there's a lot of different fishing groups and vendors that would be there. So I highly recommend checking that out. Or obviously just popping on Facebook, and there's lots of different Facebook groups for almost every different species and different types of fishing that you can explore there as well. So if you're interested, I highly, like, don't be afraid to get involved, get out there. People really, really want to help the next generation kind of experience and enjoy what we have to offer here in New Brunswick. So I get this question all the time. Should I be catching, releasing, or should I be catching and cooking fish? For me, it's a good balance, and we need to consider, the health advisories, which are printed in the Fish NB book, and also what sustainable harvest is. For me, there's no better feeling than catching a big fish and releasing that fish, watching it swim away. I think it's one of the best feelings in fishing to see that fish swim away, know that it's going to reproduce, and that someone else may catch that and it might make their day really special on the water as well. There's a great quote by Lee Wolf, who was a famous fly fisherman, and he said this way back in 1936, that game fish are too valuable to be caught only once. So if I'm ever in doubt of whether I should cook or release that fish, I kind of think to myself, how special is this fish? Is this a fish that would make someone else's day? Is it valuable enough that it should be caught twice? I think, we need to think about that to make sure the next generations, have something as well, and that we're giving back to the fishery that way. But at the same time, I do enjoy a hearty shore lunch, like you can see in the picture there. Those are actually chain pickerel fillets that I cooked up for some of my clients one day on the water. And this is the homepage from my website, New Brunswick Fishing Guides. It's newbrunswickfishingguides.ca. If anyone else is interested in what I do, you can check out the website. And I guess I hope I didn't breeze through that too fast. But does anyone have any questions?
I think that was perfect, and I learned so much. And of course, I have a question already, but
Sure.
I'm going to open it up to the students in just a minute. So maybe they're thinking about their questions. First of all, thank you so much.
Very well.
You've taught us a lot about different types of fish, but also some of the norms with fishing, which is so lovely. But one of my questions goes back to I'm always thinking about mental health and resiliency and inspiring and motivating students. And you spoke about a father and a son who had a really kind of devastating, I don't know what you called it, but they lost the fish. And I'm wondering, what types of words do you offer as a guide when you're with folks that are a little bit frustrated? I know that I'm very frustrated when I fish, or when I fished in the past, because I would say that I haven't been very successful. So what types of words of encouragement, and do you have any training in that area, or is it just something that comes naturally?
I think it's probably something that comes naturally to me. As I said in the very first slide, I wanted to be like a pro baseball player or hockey player. So anybody that plays sports out there has probably experienced that big loss, has lost the big game, and it is a sinking feeling. But I think you use that as motivation for the next time. I always kind of laugh and will joke with the clients that, no fishing story is complete or fishing trip is complete without the one that got away, right? You always hear fishermen talk about the big one that got away. They tend to grow more than, bigger than they actually were pretty quickly, as you tell that story over and over again. So I just remind them that it happens to everybody, that it's just part of fishing, but catching the big one is also part of fishing and it could happen again any minute. That's why we spend that time on the water. Like that's part of why I do anyway, is that anything can happen. Like so again, on that day, we stayed positive and we kind of made it happen again. We got lucky that it happened again, but I do always say too, that good things tend to happen when you're positive, right?
I
Uh,
agree.
I always say, even though there's some days when we're actually trolling for muskies, and we were on that day. So a lot of it's like completely up to me on the boat. Trolling means we actually have the rods in rod holders. I'm driving the boat kind of slowly, and there's, the lures are out there and we're hoping a fish is going to bite it while I'm driving. So even though I always tell the clients, like, even though I'm the one that's doing all the work, your attitude, the whole boat's attitude, I always joke and say the fish can feel that, right?
Absolutely. It's
that
the
that
energy. It's
if
the
we
energy
stay
that people
positive,
bring. Yeah.
if it's a positive vibe on the boat and everybody's having fun, we're gonna make good decisions. We're gonna do good things. So feel good, do good, and good things happen from that.
Awesome. Thank you. And we have a question from one of the students that says, what is your favorite type of way to fish?
Oh man, I would say my favorite type of fishing is, I'll get very specific here, fly fishing for muskies in rivers. So like fast moving water. I just love fishing wild rivers where you kind of drift with the current, like either in a canoe or a raft, or even a big boat with a motor. But something about rivers, like you never know what's around that next bend, right? Like I love the sound of the flowing water. To me, I don't know, you're always guessing, like anything could happen around the next bend, right? I also find rivers, you see a lot of wildlife, you see a lot of turtles, eagles, bears, moose, all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy like river fishing.
Love it. Thank you. Any other questions from the students? Do we have any fish in New Brunswick that regurgitate their inside like a hacky?
Like a hake. We
Hake.
actually have hake. I didn't list that on. I should have. I should have followed up by saying there's a lot more fish in New Brunswick. Those were kind of the main fish that people fish for. But yeah, we absolutely do have hake. And what happens there is it's called barotrauma, and that's when a fish have swim bladders that are used to a certain amount of pressure. So a hake, like the student mentioned there, actually lives like 100 feet down. So a good place to catch hake, and there's a certain season, which I believe is just opening, where people fish them through the ice. Um, I believe it's called Minister's Face. That's around St. John's. It's a place where people hike, and it's like a big rock wall, and it's 100 feet deep right there. So when you reel these fish up from 100 feet down, there's all of a sudden less pressure on them, and that's how their body reacts. They'll actually kind of spit up their guts. From what I've heard, now don't quote me on this because I don't do a ton of that kind of fishing. I've heard biologists even say that there is a safe way to release them back down, and they will become pressurized again. Their swim bladders will adjust. This is stuff that there's currently research being done on. A lot of these factors people never really considered, I don't think, because for the longest time people didn't think about the next generation or what the effects of keeping every fish were, of over harvesting. So that's another reason I love fishing, and what's special about this time and place in fishing is that we're always learning more. There's studies right now going on about these fish, where we're just learning more and more about what the best practices are, how the fish react to different conditions and release techniques. I don't know if you're
I
muted.
am muted. Sorry.
Okay.
One more question here. What is your favorite body of water to fish?
Oh, that's easy. I love the St. John River. I guess I would say the St. John River and its tributaries. A tributary is like a river that pours into a river, so it's all connected. To me, I just think the St. John River is so special. It's the longest river, I think, east of the Mississippi, or the second longest, sorry. But I mean, the St. John River literally runs from St. John, New Brunswick to almost Quebec City. It runs up through the north end of New Brunswick, through Maine, and there's just so much diversity. Like a lot of people will say, we like, again, muskies are my specialty, but a lot of people will say like, oh, well, you only have muskies in one body of water. It's so diverse, from the lakes that are attached to the river, the small streams that run into the river, the big wide sections of river like above Mactaquac Dam, and into Beechwood, and then up into northern Maine, where it's like, if anyone ever gets the chance to do a canoe trip up there, it is one of the coolest things ever. It's like super, super wilderness. Most days on the water, you see at least like two or three moose just like kind of hanging out, swimming. I've seen lynx and bear, luckily from a safe distance from the canoe. But it is, again, I love the St. John River just because of the history involved in it, and just how long and diverse it is, and all the different species it offers as well.
Awesome. All right. The questions are coming in and they're getting personal. How do you go about making an appointment to have a guide, and where do you live?
I actually live in Tracy, New Brunswick. So just like 20 minutes south of Fredericton. Again, I kind of relocate during my fishing season, and I'll spend a week or two in a certain area, even a month. So, I start my season doing sturgeon fishing out of Hampton. I go to Miramichi for most of April and a little bit of May. And then I'm kind of back home for a month. And then I'll fish and camp for like a week or two at a time, right? Through the summer, a lot of times, like mostly around Nakawik to Woodstock is where I do a lot of my muskie fishing and summer fishing. If you want to book a trip, newbrunswickfishingguides.ca, that is probably one of the best places. And again, we're in the midst of building this guiding industry, where that's a big part of what I'm doing with New Brunswick Fishing Guides, is just promoting it, showing people that we have guides from across the province. So if you go to the New Brunswick Fishing Guides website, on the homepage, there's even like, I've made an interactive map that shows you kind of different times of year and different guides that are in certain areas. Right now I have 6 different guides listed on there, and I hope to be adding a few more in the northern reaches of the province, like Shediac, Bathurst, and Restigouche, that kind of area.
Awesome. And last one here is where, oh no, wait, sorry, two more. What is the biggest fish you ever caught, and where is a good area to catch big fish?
uh, Again, like the St. John River has some huge fish. That fish you see in the picture there was caught on the St. John River. I am a fisherman, so I can't tell you exactly where to go, but there's a few places that are no secret. If anybody in like St. John has seen people down at the Reversing Falls, a lot of them are fishing for huge striped bass. There's big sturgeon all throughout the St. John River, and big striped bass as well, like even up in Miramichi. I guess big is relative to the species and the body of water, but the biggest I've ever caught in freshwater would have been probably a 45-pound muskie. The one in the picture there is probably a 40-pound muskie. So just add another 5 pounds and a couple inches to the one there. The biggest fish I've ever caught in saltwater, I went with a guide out of Lunenburg. Actually, no, scratch that, because we caught a bigger one last summer. I went tuna fishing in PEI with a guide, and we caught a 650-pound tuna fish, which was absolutely insane. It took 5 guys about an hour and a half to reel that thing in, which was just wild. So, yeah.
Okay. Environmental question. Would you eat the fish caught by reversing falls? Ooh, good one.
Again, I would look at the rule book. I probably wouldn't eat a large fish caught there. A lot of the mercury content in fish, and that's what we worry about. That's what really poses the health risk, is that mercury content. The older the fish, the more it's been in that water, the longer it's been in that water. Also, the bigger the fish, the more smaller fish it eats. So a big fish is probably going to eat bigger, quote, smaller fish than a small fish, right? So all that mercury works its way up the food chain. That's why fish like brook trout, they don't live as long as, say, a muskie or a striped bass, and they're eating mostly bugs, so that mercury content is a lot lower. I don't think I definitely wouldn't eat again any kind of large fish that I know is a spawner that is going to reproduce and continue to keep our sport fishing populations healthy and myself healthy. So I hope that answers that question.
Awesome. Thank you. And I put New Brunswick Fishing Guides.ca in there. It's all one word. I put it in there. I
That's
haven't
right.
Googled it. I can't multitask. I'm not that good.
That's okay.
Hopefully that's right. But thank you so much. This has been so lovely. And I know the students are excited to hear your answers. And I just want to let you know that I am going to be putting in a post-activity assessment in there. And if you can take a minute to fill that out, teachers, that would be lovely. Even if you're watching this as a recording, that would be awesome. But I do want to say thank you so much to Marlon and Chris. And I want to also apologize for my mistake. Earlier, I said Chris was with the Department of Natural Resources. He is with the Department of Tourism. I need to make sure that is correct because Chris is my partner in crime. But certainly, what a pleasure to have you here this morning. We are so blessed and lucky to have you part of Wildlife Wednesday. And thank you so much for the schools and teachers that have signed in. I've had many teachers reach out, especially in the high school, that said that today was the first day of their first semester and they weren't going to be able to make it. So they will be watching the recording, and thank you so much for that. And just a comment in the chat says, loved it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys being here. If you want to put your camera on one more time, that would be absolutely lovely. And then we will end the call.
Can I say one more thing, Deneen?
Absolutely.
If anybody out there wants, and not, this isn't just to book a guided trip. If anybody wants to know how to get into fishing in New Brunswick, or they have any questions whatsoever, all my contact info is on the New Brunswick Fishing Guides website under my guided trips. You can find me on Facebook, Marlon Prince. Please do reach out. I'm very happy to help anybody kind of experience what New Brunswick has to offer for fishing and help people out. So thank you again. And you guys have a wonderful first day of your semester.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marlon. And without further ado, we're going to end the call, and make sure you take time to get outside, enjoy the brisk winter weather, and take a big, deep breath. From the Center of Excellence for Health, we'll see you next week for another Wildlife Wednesday.